Is this yet another Masuka Yuasa appreciation video? Yes it is, and expect more. His adaptation of this beautiful book by Tomiko Morimi is a masterful example of what all anime can be. It's an anime I've rewatched at least 5 times, and I've got the skills to read subs faster than a Ferrari because my god, the dialogue is fast. Hey guys, I'm Eva of Addis, and today I will be talking about Tatami Galaxy, which objectively speaking, like without taking my personal infatuation with the director, is maybe his best work and definitely one of the very few almost perfect animes out there. If Tatami Galaxy is famous for anything, it's a ridiculously fast exposition. Even though it slows down for some moments, the majority of the show features a monologue that moves at a light speed. I relish the fact that there is no English dub, so if you do decide to watch it, you have no choice. Watch it subbed. As a disclaimer, even though I believe Tatami Galaxy is one of those rare animes where spoilers aren't a factor in your overall enjoyment of the show, please note that I will be mentioning the plot to a large extent, so spoiler alert. Our nameless protagonist is a third-year university student who believed he had wasted his youth in his futile attempt to join different clubs to have that rose-colored campus life. So many movies convinced us exist, but by the time he's in third year, he realizes that he has yet to achieve this dream as he ruined his chances by the decisions he made, and Ozu, who our protagonist has deemed to be the villain of the story. For the remainder of this video, I will be calling our main guy Watashi, and I know that's Japanese for I, but that's what I've come to recognize him by, and I just think it's ironic for certain reasons. The structure of each episode is that this young man chooses a different club to achieve his dream rose-colored, I'll stop pronouncing it like that. No, rose-colored uni life. This might not be different from other school-set animes, but what Tatami Galaxy does differently is the fact that, like Golden Time, it's set in university, not in a high school, and more importantly, its execution. Each episode is essentially a self-contained story, yet there are many recurring elements in each of them, such as Watashi's unrealistic expectation, its subsequent demise, and some really interesting and cool characters, such as a charming fortune teller who keeps telling him what he has to do, but he forgets it the second he moves on. Ozu, who always seems to end up in a better situation than Watashi, and Akashi, who Watashi has built up in his head to be the perfect girl. Some other characters, and the fact that the majority of the episodes end with Watashi's failure and him wishing he had done things differently, cueing the clock to turn back and set up the next episode. At first, I was convinced that this was yet another Haruhi Suzumiya where the characters lived out almost identical activities for a number of episodes, which is an amazing anime, by the way. I just saw it in the wrong order, which was the order it was released in, but apparently that's not how you watch it. Anyway, I digress. But coming back to Tatami Galaxy, the unique method of introducing and framing each episode in the same way while having a widely different and exaggerated outcome make each episode different. One way of viewing the plot is that the story is both an existentialist and a predetermined story, and let me explain why. The existential notion argues that it's up to us to make something of our lives, while the latter holds the view that our existence is a result of a destined chain of events, and that the remainder of our life will also be a chain of predetermined events. Although they seem like two opposite ways for the narrative to flow, Tatami Galaxy makes it work through soft determinism, the notion that we are not completely bound by destiny or freedom, but we're constantly moving between the two. Watashi makes individual decisions to choose between different clubs, but his failure and his interactions are basically the same. This means that at the grander scale of things, nothing he ever does makes a difference. From the unavoidable demise of his so-called rose-colored uni life, and maybe even life in general. So why bother doing anything? And later in the show, that's exactly what Watashi comes to. Grasping this, he becomes a shut-in, trapped in an infinite Tatami Galaxy representing all of the clubs he could have joined in earlier episodes. A metaphor for his own mind and belief that if none of his decisions are consequential, he might as well stay in his Tatami Galaxy. This gives him time to contemplate his decisions throughout these seemingly independent episodic experiences. He comes to the point that he misses the very simple and mundane life he had initially sought to escape from. That life is good because of these tiny, happy things he had ignored, and that the rose-colored life he had so desperately pursued does not exist. At the end of the day, you just make the best of what you have, take the losses in your stride, while at the same time take in the bits of joy we find in our life. Tatami Galaxy at the end of the day tells its audience to slow down, experience life, and smell the flowers. One character in the story, Higuchi, whom everyone calls Master, seems to personify this way of thinking. He is in his 8th year of university and seems to take life one day at a time with no particular goals to fuel his passion. Watashi muses on each episode just why everyone views Higuchi as a master, as he seems to him as a lethargic, foolish old man. But what Master and subsequently Tatami Galaxy advocates for is not to overanalyze everything to the point that we shatter. Watashi ends up realizing his misconceptions of all of his acquaintances. One who we've been introduced to as an obnoxious, sex-obsessed jock later is reintroduced to be a loyal romantic who goes out of his way to help Watashi and has a platonic yet passionate relationship with a love doll. I swear it makes sense in the story. Hanuki, who initially saw as a drunk, turned out to be one of the kindest people in the show, who just enjoys her drinks on the heavier side. And Ozu, my dear, whom Watashi viewed as a villain in all of the stories, was just a kid who doesn't know how to communicate things to his friends, and the only one who was Watashi's true friend. The only character we weren't introduced to that well is Akashi, which might be an intentional segue to the movie The Night is Young, Walk On Girl, yet another book by the amazing Tomiko Morimi, and a spiritual sequel to Tatami Galaxy. Or it could also be to give Watashi's love interest a playful sort of mystery. Everyone he knows, including his closest friends, are complex, multi-dimensional beings, but we as a viewer did not know of this misguided iteration we've been reintroduced to on each episode until later on. And the visuals play a large role in this form of narrative. The Madhouse animation is very 2D, warped yet colorful, almost as though to reflect the very one-sided Watashi's point of view. The color scheme is also very interesting, where all of the stories are colorful with one particular color as a highlight throughout the episode. The only color that was visibly absent is rose. Well, outside its use when he talks about his dream and he meets Akashi. We also see some photographic images mixed in with this quirky style of animation, almost as if to inject some sort of realism within the visuals. Masuka Yuasa uses the same technique and ping-pong the animation to reflect the characters' differing views toward the sport. But you could also argue that this is just one style of animation the director leans towards, as we see his other works such as Devilman Crybaby and some scenes in Mind Games. Even without trying to go into detail about its metaphorical brilliance, I feel like anyone would take some sort of gratification from experiencing this anime without deeming it to be too on the nose. Coming to the music, the opening was done by Asian Kung Fu Generation, whose music fits the whole apocalyptic feeling everyone in their post-teen, pre-adult life feels like at one point or another. The soundtrack is by Michiro Oshima, who is yet another goddess of soundtrack, which I've come to love for Full Metal Alchemist, and I stupidly did not talk about her in my previous video. Damn it! The soundtrack is a very soothing sort of classical set that complemented the very whimsical style of Yuasa's direction, while at the same time doing an excellent job with characterization and pacing with the story. I'm not going to talk about it too much, as I found another YouTuber who did an amazing explanation. I'll leave a link in the bio to an amazing video by Core that is solely dedicated to explain why the soundtrack is such an exceptional work of art, and I can safely say that he is far more knowledgeable to review the soundtrack as a classical musician himself. Tatami Galaxy is a sort of love story, sort of coming of age and self-discovery in the form of a bizarre commentary wrapped up in humorous narrative, vibrant symbolism, and a tiny dash of Japanese mythology, with the ability to be funny while being able to take realistic scenarios and play them out in a weird yet imaginative way, served with a side of a really satisfying ending, making it one of the best adoptions in anime history, for me at least. I mentioned before that watching Masaaki Yuasa's work is a bit like dreaming, and even though it seems to be crazy, it makes sense once you take the time to ponder on it. And this is the same with Tatami Galaxy. Everything from the animation to the music to the characters to the setting was intentionally created and worked to complement the narrative. Even the speed of the monologue is a nod to how fleeting university, or more generally, youth is. This is a type of anime that reminds me just what an amazing medium anime is when the damn people use it properly. It's a perfect example of what anime holds and its ability to free itself from genre boundaries, and this is why I full-heartedly recommend this anime with no hesitation whatsoever. Even if you've seen it, I hope you revisit it nonetheless. It has a way of hitting home with anyone familiar with feeling lost while being young and still trying to figure out their role in life. So that's it for today. I tried to change my form of review. Please tell me if you prefer this one to my previous one. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!